Okay, hello YouTube, and welcome back to bizzy.tv. My name is Mike, and just recapping where we've been the last couple of days. We started on Monday, sort of laying out the ground rules and setting some goals for this project and this stream. And then yesterday we spent some time cataloging our skill set and expertise and experience, roughing out our first idea that we're going to try, and then looking at some of the competition out there to see what people are already using and what they're paying for it and what features exist. And originally today we were going to sketch out our minimum viable product, but I had a better idea, and this is an idea that I think people wait to do until later when they have a product to show. But I actually think that in the spirit of failing fast, there's no better time to go and talk to a future customer than before you've invested all the time making something. So what I've done is I've hit the streets and I have located a possible future customer. Turned out to be my wife, who is a Girl Scout leader. And how long have you been doing that?
5 years.
5 years. So I thought this would be a good idea for two reasons. First of all, we can find out what kind of product she would find helpful, but also because we have two kids and the oldest of them is 10. So it's been about 10 years since we had an adult conversation. So I thought this would be good to kill two birds with one stone. So let me introduce my wife, Mindy.
Hello.
So first of all, tell us what you do with the Girl Scouts. What does a typical day look like when you're organizing something?
Well, I'm happy to tell you about the Girl Scouts, but I've actually thought of this from a few different angles through the PTO, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, just as a room mom, and as a city volunteer, because I find in all of these different situations, I would really like to have something much more convenient and powerful than we have, but they all have to be free or very low cost because we can't afford to do the purchase element on a lot of existing software. So as a Girl Scout leader, I plan meetings, I plan events, I take payment for activities and troop dues. I have to get permission forms and health forms signed. I try to share some pictures of the activities that we're doing, and I try to coordinate with our city level Girl Scouts and our school level Girl Scouts so that our girls can have access to activities from all of those different areas. I'd say it's similar with all of the other organizations as well.
Okay, so how do you do those things today? What tools are you using?
Currently, I use a lot of email, and often very long emails that are action-packed and full of details. I use spreadsheets to record who can do what when. I use Sign Up Genius. I use some other similar web-based tools. I don't know if you want names of them or not.
Sure, yeah, give me all
The other one is called, I think there's Volunteer Spot, someone has used. We have different websites that we just end up linking to in the emails. And then I use just a lot of paper checks and going to the bank for the money right now, which is not terribly convenient. We try to avoid printing things and handing them out, but sometimes that happens too because we obviously need to get health forms signed and have to keep them with us. So those end up being paper copies. I think that's the bulk of it.
The websites that you link to, do you know any of those that you're linking to?
The different Girl Scout websites.
Okay.
So that's one of the things that I see is right now at the city level there are activities and they send out emails and put things on their website, and then the school, when I organize school-wide activities, I send out emails. I don't really have a website to put those on. because the school just also corresponds via email primarily. So I end up just linking to theirs to advertise something. But it would be really nice if there was a program that they could use and we could use that was all in one place. I've heard some of the Cub Scout parents say the same thing, that the pack leader corresponds through Facebook, but the den leader corresponds via email, but then some of the pack things come from emails from someone else and they don't know if it's spam or if it's something they're supposed to be looking at, and everyone is coming at it a different way, and it's not very organized for that reason. I don't use Facebook, so I can't see the stuff on Facebook. When it's posted there, I'm almost in the dark unless someone else forwards it to me.
So why don't you use Facebook?
I don't like the idea of being pulled into this system where a lot of people have told me it's like a wormhole. Once you start, you can't stop. I also have too many personal privacy issues to want to post all of my information there. And I don't really care what people are doing day to day. I think if they want me to know something important in their life, they should call me and have a conversation with me. Kind of old school that way, but that's the way I operate. So I don't see it on Facebook.
All right. The tools that you're using now, do you pay anything for any of those?
No. We literally end up selling boxes of cookies and making 60 cents a box and using all of those sales to fund our activities. So if it costs $5, that's a lot of boxes of cookies. We don't spend money if we can help it.
Okay. So of the tools that you're using now, let's start with what you like about those tools.
All right. Well, the Excel spreadsheets I like because I set them up so I know where everything is. I do share information with my co-leader via OneNote, and so that's handy because we can both edit the information and we can both see what we have planned. That way, while I generally do the emailing of activities out to the parents, she also sends some, and so as long as we both have the same information, it can get out. On Sign Up Genius, I like that it sends reminders so that I don't have to send them. And, it lists a little summary there and then opportunities for people to sign up for things. People are used to using it, so it's straightforward and they understand what they have to do.
Do they find it to be easy?
They do, I think. No one's ever told me it's not. Let's see. Paper is paper. There's, you know exactly what they've received because you handed it to them. But an email, as long as people read it, that seems to work. But it takes a lot of time to get it all down. And if you want to copy it again, you gotta find it and copy it and send it again. Would you like to know what doesn't work?
I'm getting there next.
Okay.
That's my next question. So what don't you like about these tools?
Sometimes people don't read their emails. Sometimes they read them and don't respond, but you don't know if they've received them unless you're requesting, receipts and all that. And I don't really want that many emails. Or if they email me back and I miss it, that can be a problem. The Sign Up Genius, if I put something on there, no one else can edit it. If someone else puts it, I can't edit it. I'm finding that to be a problem now with some party sign-ups for the PTO. One of our volunteers had at one point offered to organize snack sign-ups for our meetings and used Volunteer Spot, which was a nice idea, but the only way you could access it was through a password that they generate every time you ask for it, or you have to find that email, which is not convenient. And as a leader, I couldn't see who was actually signed up. All I could see was that someone was signed up, or I couldn't get their contact information. So we didn't use that one again. That was not convenient.
You couldn't. You were the leader of the event, but you couldn't see their
I
contact?
didn't set up the event.
Oh.
So only she really had the information. I think you might have been able to see a name, but you didn't have any access to their information. So whatever we're going to use, my preference is it's something that multiple people can edit, because that seems to be like OneNote we can do that with, but that's not something we share with everyone else.
Okay.
Challenges with checks and paper are just that, there's a lot of things to collect and get back and carry around, and so I'd prefer not to have to do it that way.
So collecting checks
It's a
for
pain in the butt.
what are the checks? What are people giving you checks for?
We do checks for troop dues to cover badges and materials for meetings. I use checks for class contributions as a room mom to pay for teacher gifts. I organize a school-wide Girl Scout event, and everyone who's coming has to pay to come. And so I end up getting 100 checks for, the attendance, and then I have to go cash them all and collect them all and hunt them down. So I'm not a big fan of checks anymore. I don't go to the bank often enough. It's too much opportunity for something to get lost.
Okay. Anything else you can think of that's frustrating with the tools you're using now?
We don't have a good calendar or a place to post pictures because we don't use Facebook. So I think it would be nice if whatever we had all of that in one place. We had used one of the photo websites at one point. I don't remember if it was Snapfish or one of those to do photos and calendar, but that was not convenient and nobody thought to go there. When you start using all these different platforms, it's too confusing for people to remember what's where. So they don't go looking.
Okay. So I've mentioned that tomorrow we're going to be working on something called the minimum viable product, which is what is the simplest thing that I can make that would address 80% of your needs, or a significant portion of your needs. So it sounds like email, some sort of centralized email messaging is what you're saying. Would you agree with that?
Well, I have email, so another product that does email, if that's 80% of it, that doesn't do it for me. I would say more important to me would be a calendar system that has activities that you can actually sign up for, so that I know that you're planning to attend without you having to send me an email indicating that, and without me having to send you an email indicating there's an event. So if they know that there's a calendar and they can go and sign up, or I can link to that calendar in an email and it has all of the information there, and that calendar has a fixed address that they know to go and look at, I think that would be helpful. I think if there's a way for them to pay for attending that event, if that's required, that would be helpful. For instance, are you planning to continue with Girl Scouts next year? If so, pay me the $30 troop dues. And your indication here lets me know that I have your daughter for next year, and now I have your check. And do you want to go to the sleepover? Do you need transportation? They can just check these things on a form. Here's the permission form for the horseback riding. Please download it and sign it and bring it back. So if it has forms, calendar, payment, if they can post pictures that they've taken, that would be great. It's not a requirement.
Associated with the event, or just post pictures in general?
Either would be fine, because I think generally you could tell what event they went with if need be.
Okay.
If there's a way to link it to another organization that's using your same system, that would be wonderful. So if the city Girl Scouts was using it and our troop was using it and our school was using it, that they could easily view all three things with clicks of buttons, essentially. They know this is the place to go to get all of their information.
How about keeping track of who is part of like a directory, like a roster, keeping track of who's in the group?
Yes, that would be important. And hopefully it would track everything that you've done, that it would save it in a database form. So when someone says they can attend an event, that's now saved so that when I pull up that event, I can see who's going to attend. It would be nice to email them from there, but it's not a necessity. It would be nice for multiple people to be able to edit the information so that we're not stuck with one person doing it all the time. If something changes, someone else can change it if need be.
So if we can step back for a moment and narrow down what we have here to the minimum, because I'm thinking about what's a product that I can make rapidly, say in a couple of weeks, to give you something that you can start trying to see if it actually helps.
Okay.
What minimum set of features, the absolute minimum, could I make?
The pictures would be secondary.
Sounds like the calendar.
The calendar's primary. The sign-up's primary.
Paying for the event, that's pretty complicated.
That would, well, but it would be really, really helpful. If it's too complicated, save it.
Helpful, but not minimum, I would say.
In your mind, it's not a minimum. I think that it would be one of the things that would push someone to use it in a heartbeat if they didn't have to pay for it. So it has to be also free or minimal cost. And if it's free or minimal cost and it can deal with payments, all the better. Like I say, pictures secondary.
So
though I don't know if that's an easy one for you, include it. But if it's hard,
so making these forms that go with the event, asking about, do you need transportation? Would that be a minimum requirement? Because that could get also complicated.
No. But being able to include a document that they print out, like uploading a permission form, would be great. Again, I guess secondary, but that would be helpful so that if they aren't the ones who are picking their kid up from a meeting or at school because the kid rides the bus home, you know that they're able to access the form. Though I guess I could email that again.
Okay, and probably reminders.
Yes.
Email reminders would be minimum. And really, I think fundamentally we need that rostering capability first.
Well, yeah, because otherwise you don't know who's signing up.
So you know who's supposed to have access and so on.
But I would use something like this for class parties, PTO events. I would use it for all kinds of things, not just Girl Scouts.
So even if it was just that minimum product, you could use that for PTO, Girl Scouts, something with the city, you think?
If it had the roster, the calendar, it needs to have a little more than that.
I mean, eventually, but at a minimum, you could do something with that.
It has to have sign-ups on there.
Sign-ups, yeah.
Yeah, I could do something with that.
Okay.
Not as much as I'd like, but I could do something.
We'll get to the big we'll get to the big one, but I want to start small and work up to it. So So the big question, I think you've already answered it, but if I could deliver exactly the product that you wanted in a box wrapped up with a bow, how much are you going to pay me?
Nothing. But I will look at ads. I don't care about ads.
Now, is it the problem that you're not going to pay me, or I'm just a terrible salesperson?
No, the problem is literally paying you means that girls have to sell more cookies. And we can't sell any more cookies. We have to sell them in January. It's too cold to sell more cookies. And they want to do
What if
fun activities. They don't want to pay for, organizational events. And so, PTO might have some money to spend on it, but I'm not in charge of that budget, so I can't promise that. I know the publishing shop has to fight for the budget just to make books, so I'm not sure how much more budget there is for scheduling. They'd rather we spend our time. That's free to them. Not to me, but to them.
All right. Well, I think we figured out some things to start with. Any other comments about this minimum product?
Doesn't seem so minimum, does it?
Well, it's not too bad. If it's just these two things and up here, then that's really not. That'll take a few weeks to put together, but I think I can do it relatively fast.
I don't need it to be fancy. I don't need bells and whistles. It doesn't need a snazzy interface or, a pretty color scheme. I don't really care. Getting my color scheme on there is completely unimportant to me. So don't spend your time on that.
So if my artistic capability is represented by this scribble I did,
that's awesome.
That's just fine.
It is.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's all the questions I have. So I want to thank our guest on the stream today, Mindy.
It's been lovely having this conversation with you. Maybe we can check it again in a few years.
Yes. It's been nice to have an adult conversation. So, alrighty, that's all I've got. Thanks again. So, that's pretty much all I had planned to do today. I think we've collected a ton of information there. And actually, you can see how just talking to a potential future customer and asking them what they need and what they want gives you a whole bunch of information to go off of now, because now we can focus our efforts and circle back with that customer, circle back with Mindy in a few weeks, show her what we've put together and see if it actually meets the needs that she specified. So that's what I've got for today's stream. So tomorrow we'll pick back up with what I was going to do originally today of sketching out that minimum viable product. I think we have a better idea of what that should include now. And we'll see what that looks like. So in the meantime, if you like this concept of starting a business in real time with 100% transparency, please take a couple minutes to visit us at Patreon. This is the page here, and sign up as a patron of this stream to let us know that you like what we're doing and you want to support it going forward. In the meantime, we'll see you tomorrow for the next bizzy.tv stream where we'll start working on that minimum viable product. Talk to you later.